The last time Joy Mwangi was at the Langata Cemetery in the capital was shortly after she and her family laid her brother to rest in 2015. 5 years later, she's back here to try and find her brother's grave, nestled somewhere in this overgrowth. She's hoping to trace the small concrete slab that marks her brother's final resting place.
I think it must be somewhere around here. These slabs.
But minutes later, she comes up empty.
And he was a doctor.
Oh, he was a doctor?
Yeah. Nanyuki.
Oh,
okay. Alikuwa second born, I'm the last born, and now my sister. So, this is quite sad. Eh?
It's really sad, actually.
Because even if you say mkujange kuona, there's nothing to...
The family would have loved to bury him at their rural home, but their budget could only secure them space on the temporary side.
Around too, so...
In this now shrinking domain of the dead.
We had to travel all the way from Embu to... Unfortunately, we had land issues in the family. So, tuka travel all the way from Embu, na mwili yetu, tukalipia city mortuary, the permit. Then sasa tukakuja huku Langata saa kumzika.
Joy and her family were guaranteed that her brother would rest undisturbed for only 7 years. In the heart of a city that is fast running out of graveyard space, those who tend to the graves here say they have to disturb their peace after some time as they scramble to create room.
Shimo yenye ilikuwa fupi, like ungesimama hivi wenye walikuwa wanachimba actually ilikuwa nafika mahali hapa. So that means maybe around 3 feet. Wakichimba wanasema huo mwenye ako chini ana complain hawezi pitisha hapo. At the end of the day you have nothing to do, naambia tu ni sawa. Sasa venye nimerudi after a few weeks, nilikuja nikapata sasa slab imeslide, kuna kishimo, yani shimo hata mwenyewe unaweza crawl in na utoshe. Nikakuja tu nikaekelea maua, nikajaribu kutoa weeds na mikono. I remember even there was a burial just next there. Mama wengine walikuwa wananiangalia wananihurumia, wananiambia msichana achana tu nazo tu zitamea tu bado, but nilingoa tu na mikono, imagine, na nikamaliza.
Meters away, Veronica Mwangi's grave sits fallen in a thick bush. Veronica passed away in 2017 in India, where she was seeking treatment for cancer. Her daughter, Kezia Nyambura, remembers her mother's last painful moments as she slipped away. As she sat by her hospital bed, her mother told her of a beautiful home that she was being called into. Nyambura put up a beautiful gravestone at her mother's final resting place at the cemetery and even fenced it. But her mother is still far from home.
We came, we painted her grave very well with my family, my sister, my daughter and my uncle. Then after like 2 weeks, when we were supposed to come back and finish the clearing of the weeds and everything to prepare for her anniversary, my friend took a photo when she was somewhere here in Langata. I think she passed by to check on Mom's grave. And unfortunately, the metal bars that were around her grave that we painted were not there. We chose here because her mom is also here. So we wanted her to be with her mom. And she was a single mother, so yeah.
Consigned to the periphery, these final resting places, the homes of the invisible dead, are still haunted by the airs of neglect. There is no one to man the points of entrance, no running water, and no lighting. The metal bars that hem them in have been broken, stolen, and sold for scrap metal. Here and there are craters in the loose red soil caused by hoofs of grazing cattle. Or vehicles rolling over the graves, crushing the weak earth into the cavities below. The Langata Cemetery first came up in 1956 as Kenya was nursing independence hopes. Thousands have been buried in the 117-acre piece of land since the first body, that of Robert Lockheed, was interred in September 1958, according to a frayed ledger marking each burial for more than half a century. But not every death has been set down. Just as city's architecture reveals its history, so do the headstones in the graveyard. There are no records of those buried in the temporary section, and even in death, the rich and poor hardly ever interact. The cost of a plot on the permanent side is nearly 5 times that of the temporary side. A spot on the temporary side costs about 3,000 shillings for a child and 7,000 shillings for an adult. For the permanent side, one must part with at least 15,500 shillings for a child and at least 30,500 shillings for an adult. The permanent side allows families to put up a gravestone. The cheaper bury and go option on the temporary side is what a number of city dwellers have been forced to take up due to financial constraints. Here, where new graves are dug in between the old ones.
First of all, this is not easy. Seeing vile sasa kumeja kichaka, I can't trace my brother's grave. At a slab yenyewe I can't see it. It's quite sad.
In 2010, a corruption scandal saw government officials pocket over 200 million shillings that was meant to secure alternative cemetery land in Athi River and ease the space pressure. The land in question was also deemed too rocky for a cemetery. Former Nairobi Mayor Geoffrey Majiwa was among those charged. The city's cemeteries operations have now been transferred to the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, which now has the unenviable task of finding room to house the city's dead.
We are fully aware that Langata Cemetery is becoming now full, but we are working with Ministry of Lands to ensure that we can get another space, even if it is from Kenya Forest, in order to get some land where we can extend.
But for those whose loved ones are still resting here, there are fewer options.
I only wish they will do something about it. So at least familia wache kuumia, because surely not everyone can afford huko permanent. Not everyone has places to bury their loved ones. Mashamba inaleta shida. Issues mingi tu.
For the families, the warmth of the memories is all they can hold on to.
Just miss everything. I miss her so much. She was our everything. She was a single mom. She raised us alone. But I thank God the way she left us with my sister. We are together with her sisters, the uncles. They've never left us. We're all together. But we miss her. She left a gap that no one can fill.
From its inception, Langata Cemetery offered thousands of families a central place where they could lay their loved ones to rest. But that rest has been disrupted by the constant issues that have surrounded the cemetery and are yet to be resolved decades on. Gena Kedori, NTV, Nairobi.